understanding fuel zones. So settings, fuel zones. What is a fuel zone and what do we need to use for a fuel zone? So basically, if you have a proprietary card site and for whatever reason you don't want all of your cards to go to all of your sites, then you can come in here and you can configure fuel zones. Fuel zones are a way to filter what cards are going to what sites. So when you create a card, you'll have a drop down for fuels. By default, everybody's going to be selecting fuel at all sites. So the card would go to all sites. But if you don't need it to, usually due to a limit of space on your fuel site controller, if you're only allowing, say, 1,000 cards to your fuel site controller and you have 2,000 cards, for all of your sites, and you only need, say, 500 to go to one site and, another 500 go to a different site and another 500 go to a different site, then you can set fuel zones to limit that one site to only get the 500 cards that it needs. Now, in order to do that, we need to define the fuel zones, and we'd also need to set the cards themselves to be in that particular zone. So this is typically better to do at the start of configuring your site, because editing 500 cards can take a very long time in DXLeak. You would have to go in individually to select the cards, where you would need to create a new card import template to update all of your existing cards, which would take some time and some configuration. So let's go ahead and create fuel zones. And so settings, fuel zones, hit the little plus. All the zone is going to be a name and then which sites that zone is going to include. So if I want to do like site 1 only, and then I can create, these are the available sites, we can create site 1 only and hit save. What that's going to do is it's going to create a zone with only site 1 in it. So when I create a card, I could basically select, instead of fuel at all sites, I could select fuel zone site 1 only. And that's going to allow me to push that card only to site 1. So site 2 and site 3 will simply never get this card because it's not being sent to all sites. You could create multiple zones as well. So if I wanted a site 2 only, I could do that, and I could add this one only. If I wanted to create a zone with multiple, I could say, all sites but site 001. And I could do something like that, and that will allow me to create a different zone with everything but 001. So if I wanted to exclude a certain site for different cards, I could do, and all of those would allow me to basically create groups of zones. And when I create the cards, I can select from those zones. So let's just do that real quick. So I created 2 zones. I got site 1 only, and I have everything but site 1. And I go to cards, driver vehicle records. And like I said, by default, most of your cards are going to say fuel at all sites. So we'll just edit 1. And down here at the bottom, we have all sites for a fuel zone. Now, if I select this, I can say site 1 only, or I could say all sites but site 1. So if I do site 1 only and I update this, what's going to happen is when I do a card resend or when this card get updates, it's only going to update the controller at site 1. It's not going to update to all the other sites. So if I need this card to only go to site 1, this is the way to do it. If I need the other cards configured, I can configure them for everything but site 1. If I don't want those cards cluttering site 1, then I could do something like that as well. Or, a lot of the times, if you have thousands and thousands of cards, you may want, this account is only going to be fueling at this one site, so I'm going to go ahead and define it to site 4 only. Or I'm going to have this little region that has, 3 sites next to it. I'm going to have all of those cards go to that region because those vehicles may need the fuel over at a different station if one of them's down. And so that's the option here. You can configure as many as you want. You could set them as many as you want. but just keep in mind that every card needs to have a fuel zone selection. So they can either be set to all sites and every site's going to get all card, or you would have to have a selection for whatever you would like it to be, and you have to define them. And like I said, it's easier to define up front before you create your cards, so you don't have to go and edit all the cards later to be able to set them. You can use the card import template here to bulk update or bulk create cards. So if you're creating the cards at first and you need to define these first, I would define them before you create the card import. And when you select card import, it'll actually tell you that. So one of the options here at the top is fuel zone. So it wants to make sure you program those first before you go ahead and do that. But that's how you create fuel zones and how you assign them to your